As I said, I'm part of the Apex product management team, and this is my LinkedIn and Twitter handles. Feel free to connect with me in case you have any queries with respect to Apex. So before we start, it's a safe harbor statement. So whatever I'll be demonstrating today, majority of them are part of the product, which is already available GA. And if there is anything which I am speaking, which may not be there in the product, you don't have to take a purchasing decision based on that. Okay, so let's start what a vector search is from an Oracle perspective and what are the features of it. So vector, as we know nowadays, everyone uses vectors, right? Vectors are basically our multi-dimensional array kind of thing using which you will try to search for a certain thing. So Oracle Cloud has something called as converged database, or in other words, with the 26 AI release, we call it as an Oracle AI database 26 AI, which is a converged database where it will be one database where you can have your ML, you can have your graph data, you can have your JSON data, you can have your relational data, everything. And now with 23 AI database, which is the previous version, Oracle database has introduced a new data type called as vector. So now you can convert your data into vector, and you don't need a different vector database for that. You can still use the same Oracle database, which should be from the version 23 AI or 26 AI, where a new data type called as vector is introduced, where the vector embeddings will be stored. So we'll see as to what vector embeddings and all in the upcoming slides and as well as in the demo. The next thing is semantic search. So as we all know, whatever we do on our usual documents and all the control F, that's basically your text search or a similarity search, right? So semantic search is where you try to search for something and the word need not be there in that particular document or wherever you're trying to search. It will try to identify what exactly the word which you are entering means, and it will try to find the relevant answers and it will show you. So that's basically semantic search. And now as we are using Apex and as this is part of your Oracle database, we'll also show you how you can use vectors and how you can integrate that with SQL commands and generate vector embeddings and do searching for your vectors using SQL commands. Okay, so how do we create a vector search? So there are 5 steps to it. So step 1 is you need to, as I said, we have a vector data type column inside the database. So you have to create a column with a vector data types to store your vector embeddings. The second one, once you have the data type, the column in your table, you need to store vector data type inside that, right? Or vector embeddings inside that. So to generate vector embeddings from your characters, what should you have? You need a vector provider using which you will be converting your strings or characters into vectors. So that's where you will be choosing a vector provider. And once you have the vector provider, you can use this apex_ai get vector embeddings package, which is a PL/SQL package, using which you can convert your characters into vectors. And once done, Apex has something called as search configuration, where you can create a search configuration for your vector. When you create a search configuration, you will be choosing the vector column which you have created in step 1, and that would have been populated with vectors in your step 3. So using that vector column, it will try to build a search configuration. And once the search configuration is present, you want to have a page kind of thing or a chatbot where you want to use this. So let us say you want to have a search page. That's where you can create a search page where you can use this particular vector search, the search configuration, which you have created in your previous step to use for your searching. Okay. So as I said, what are vector providers? Vector providers are basically used to convert your text data or character data into vector chunks. As on date, Oracle Apex supports database ONX model, which is Open Neural Network Exchange model, where you can load the ONX model directly into the database. You don't need to send your data outside your database to convert the characters into vectors. So Oracle database now supports ONX model, where you can load the ONX model into your database and use that to convert your characters into vectors. We'll show on how you can do that. The second one is generative AI service. So when we meant by generative AI service, as on date, Oracle's Apex supports OCA generative AI, OpenAI, and Cohere. And then if at all you have a custom LLM model or a custom vector which is running somewhere on your VM or somewhere, then you can integrate that as well using a custom PL/SQL block. Okay. And these vector providers, whatever you're creating, are stored at workspace level. Workspace is kind of a logical segregation inside which you will be creating multiple Apex applications. So once you configure a vector provider at a workspace level, you can use that for all other applications which you are creating inside that particular workspace. Now, the last one is, as I mentioned in the previous slide, apex underscore AI dot get vector embeddings is a PL/SQL API using which you will be able to generate vector embeddings from your character data. The next thing is, once we generate the vector embeddings, we will be using a vector search configuration. Once the vector search configuration is created, I'll be using this vector search configuration for a search page, or if I can use a PL/SQL block to use it in a chatbot or anything of that sort. So that's where you will be using the search configuration page. And when you are creating a search configuration page, it will ask, sorry, when you're creating a search configuration, it will ask you the vector column. That is the vector column which you would have created in your step one. And this vector column determines what is the, when you ask a question, it will determine what's the nearest answer based on something called as distance metrics. And we have multiple algorithms which I'll show you, using which you can decide which algorithm you want to use, which you use to calculate the vector distance. So vector distance is basically nothing but, let us say you have asked a question, it will convert your question into vector. Vector is basically a multi-dimensional array. I'll show you how it will look. It will convert your question into a multi-dimensional array. And ahead, before you ask a question, and when you're generating this vector embedding, your characters also are converted into vector embedding, right? So it will compare this particular vector, the question vector, with all the answer vectors, and it will try to do a vector distance. And that vector distance would be done based on the algorithm which you use. And then you can specify what's the maximum vector distance it can go to. And then you can determine, let us say there are 100 records, it will show all the 100 records. Rather, you want to see only 2 or 3 records, that you can decide based on something called as max results. And then for this vector embeddings, Oracle by default generates an index, and it uses that index for faster retrieval of the data. Okay. Now let's quickly jump into a demo. I'll be sharing my other screen. Let me know if that is visible to you. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible, Santhosh.
Let's quickly jump into a demo to see what exactly it is. Then I will try to show how to build it. So this is a sample vector search application which I have created. So this is I'll show you 2 different ways in which you can do it. So this is, for example, I have an application where I'm trying to show all the movies. Now, if you want to search for a particular movie, or you want to search based on your category, all I'm trying to do is I have a search movies page, and this page is created from my vector search configuration. So here I just have to type the genre like action, and then it will show me all the action movies which are there in my database. Similarly, if I have to, let us say I want to see all the thriller movies, then it will show me all the thriller movies. Okay, so this is one type where I have created a vector search configuration, and I have created a search page on top of that. This may not be the use case for everyone. For example, let us say you have want to use vector search on your chatbot to answer a couple of questions. So in that case, let us take this example where I have various schools. Now I want to ask a question on a particular, I want to ask a couple of questions with respect to a specific school. Let us say, what sports are available here? Okay. So it will talk to your database, and it will get the data which is present inside your database. Now, how is it doing? It will convert my question, which is what sports are available, into a vector. And then it will check what is the relevant answer for this particular school, and it will get that data. Okay. So now let us see how to build an application using that. So even before that, you can achieve the same thing using RAG. So RAG is basically retrieval augment generation, which we have covered in our earlier sessions, where you will be providing a source. RAG, as it says, it is RAG, retrieval, augmentation, and generation. Retrieval is where you will provide a source query from where it has to retrieve data to answer your question. Augmentation is where Once it retrieves the answer, it will embed that with the question which the user is asking. And then generation. It will send this appended data, that is your question and the answer, to the AI service provider to get data in a meaningful format. Now we have RAG. Why do I need vector on top of RAG? So when you use vector with RAG, what happens is your answer will be still more accurate, and the number of tokens which you use will be far more less when compared to how you use in RAG. End of the day, when you are using AI service providers, customer will be charged based on the number of tokens they are used, right? So if we want to minimize that and we want our answer to be perfect or near accurate, so that's where we can go with RAG with vector combination. Okay, so now let me show you a sample application. So, or else let me start with an application. So I have an application. So I'll give you the use case. So I have this application called data called as support ticket resolutions, where I have captured couple of support tickets and the ticket name, what is the ticket title, the customer, the priority, the status created, what's the description of that particular ticket. Let me show one of the tickets. Okay, so I have this description saying that security alert and what's the resolution provided. Now let's build an application where I can ask in a natural language saying that this is my issue. Then if similar issue is already present, it should ideally get me a resolution, and it can also get me relevant tickets as well. Okay, so to build that application, what I'll do, I'll just go to my table. As this is Apex, which I'm using, I have an option to create an app directly from my table. So I'll just say create app. I'll go with the defaults and I'll say create app. Okay, so in the meanwhile, there are a couple of things which we have to do. So let's start with that. Okay, now my app is created. So it will create a default login page for me. I just log in and this is my application. Okay, where I have a dashboard. I have a faster search page where I can see all the tickets, I can filter, and then I have a report with a form kind of thing. Okay, so let's quickly let's create a chatbot on my homepage, or let us say I want to create on this particular search page. So I'll go to my search page. Okay, so all I need to do is create a button. I want, on a click of a button, I want my chatbot to pop up. Okay, so I'll just say this, I'll keep it hot, I'll change the location where it has to be saved. Now, when I click on that, what has to happen? It has to open a chatbot, right? So for that, I need to create an AI configuration. So I'll go back to my shared components. I'll go to AI configuration. I'll say create. I'll say support tickets vector. Okay. Resolutions vector. Okay. I'll take my key which I have configured. I need a system prompt. I'll just copy the system prompt which I have created. I'm just providing a guardrail saying that you are here to answer the support ticket related questions. If there is anything else, if you are not able to answer, just say sorry, I can't provide. Okay, and a welcome message. I welcome to support tickets resolution chatbot. How may I help you? Okay, I'll just create this and then I'll create a RAG source. Support tickets RAG. Resolution RAG. And here I just have to use this table. I have this support ticket resolution table. which I'll be using. I'll just say select star from the table. Okay, and I want to restrict the maximum tokens because I have 5,000 records here. And if I send the entire data, it will run me out of my tokens. So I'll be using a max tokens of 10,000 for now. I'll just say create. Now that my search configuration is created, let me go back to my page. Sorry, page 3. And call the chatbot. How do we call it? We just create a dynamic action. I'll just say ask me. And then here for the dynamic action, I just say show AI assistant. I'll use the AI configuration which I have created. That's it. Now when I run my application, I'll have my ask me here. I'll just open this. And as this is with respect to support tickets and resolutions. So let me ask a question like, show me the bugs which are, I have a bug which is causing application crashes. So it will go to the database. It will try to identify, this is RAG, right? So it will try to go to the database and it will find out if there is anything with respect to this. And remember that we have mentioned the maximum tokens to be used are 10,000. Okay, let that do. In the meanwhile, let me show you the consumption for that because end of the day, we want to see the consumption, right? Just a minute. I'm trying to show the consumption based on the ID. So that's where I have this where condition. I'll just use this for now for comparison. So this has taken, okay, so I've got the answer. So it said, here are the bug categories, tickets, explicitly reporting application crashes. So it has given me the ticket number, it has given me the description, the status, to whom it is assigned, and the resolution provided. Okay. So if at all you are facing any kind of an issue, you want to prepare a support ticket let us say there is a support ticket raised by a particular customer, rather than, so your support team can refer to this kind of application where they can put the question which is mentioned in the description, and your vector search can go, sorry, your APEX application can go through your entire database and can get this kind of data. Now let us see for this particular thing, it has used kind of 12,393 tokens, right? Let me see if that's the latest one. Yeah, so I have 12,393. Now let's try to use vectors where we try to reduce these tokens and try to be more accurate on this. Okay, so for that, what we should do, first we need to have two columns in my table. One is to hold a chunk, character chunk, and then to hold a vector. So to hold my character chunk, I can decide what columns I want to aggregate or to add to that particular character chunk. So I'll come here, I'll alter my table. I'll just create a chunk underscore C column and then a vector underscore chunk underscore V column. As you can see, vector is the new data type which is introduced as part of Oracle Database 23 AI. Now, if I go back to my object browser here and if I refresh, I should see these two columns. Okay. Now let's add data to chunk underscore C. Now to answer our question, so what we'll do is from this particular data, what we have, we'll use this column title. Let's use status, category, assignee, description, resolution, so that we'll see whether there are any critical issues assigned to Jamal Brown kind of thing. Okay. It's not mandatory that you have to take all this. Depending on your use case, you can use one or two columns to create a character chunk and then generate a vector chunk out of it. Now let's use, I have another PL SQL block which I'll be executing. Okay, so this is a PL SQL block which I'll be executing. So what I'm doing, I'm taking title, status, category, assignee, description, and resolution. I'm combining this entire thing into something called as ticket data, and I'm fetching the ID as well. Okay. Once I have that, I'm running that in a loop. and I am updating this chunk underscore C with that particular data. Now chunk underscore C will have a concatenation of all these columns data, right? Now let's run this. Okay, so now if I go back to my table, so initial, let me refresh this and go here. Okay, let me run this over there. Select star from this particular table. Now you can see I have character chunks, chunk underscore C, where we have combined title, status, category, assignee, and all, right? So we have this data. Now the next step is we have the character chunk. Now we have to create a vector chunk. Now to create a vector chunk, what do I need? I need a vector provider. So for that, I'll go back to my shared components. And even before that, we need a vector provider, right? Vector provider will be there in your workspace utilities because it will be there at vector workspace level. So you can see vector provider here. And here, when you are creating a new vector provider, you can see that the provider types are database ONX model, generative AI service, custom PL SQL. Now, when you say database ONX model, you should have loaded that into your database ahead. Okay. So for that, all you need to do is you'll be using a couple of grant commands. I can share that with you. So it would be something like this, which you will be using. So you'll be using this grant create mining model, and then you have to mention the schema on which you want to give the mining model grant privileges. Okay. And then we'll share the link of the blog which we have, where we have given the entire PL SQL blog and explained line by line as to how you can import an ONX model into the database. So let me show that part. Now so once you grant it, so this is the next block which you will be executing to load the ONX model, which is Open Neural Network Exchange model, into your database. So we have loaded that model and made it available on this particular link. And this is your basically object storage link on OCI. You can use a make REST request call to get this and load into the database. Okay. So as you can see here, dbms underscore vector dot load ONX model is the package using which you will be loading that model into our database. Okay, I have done that part, so I'll not be repeating this. So now I have that. So only when you do that, you can see when you select database ONX model and when you select the schema, you will be seeing the model here. Okay, so you can select that and you can do this. Let us say you don't want to use database ONX model. You want to use a generative AI service for generating vector embeddings for you. So you can say generative AI service. And as I said, we support OCA generative AI, OpenAI, or Cohere. If it is OCI generative AI, you can just provide the compartment ID where it is, and then the region where you want to, where your AI service is there, and then the model using which you want to generate the embeddings. If it is OpenAI, you will just have to provide the API key here. Okay. Similarly with Cohere, where you have to provide an API key and then the model. Okay. So I have created a vector provider, which is my ONX model. So all I have done is I have selected my schema, which is this. So when I click on this, I can see that this is my schema, AI cam. And then the dot model is a mining model, which I have loaded into my database. Okay, now that I have the data vector provider, the next thing is I have to create a chunk B, right? So let me go back here. So what I have to do now, I have to create a character chunk. So to create a character chunk, what should I do? So if you remember from the slide, we have a package called as apex underscore AI dot get vector embeddings. So I'll use that to generate the vector embedding. So if you see here, so this is the package apex underscore AI dot get vector embeddings is a package which I'm using to convert the value, which is chunk underscore C. This is what we have loaded it, updated now, right? I'll be using that column. I'll use this column to convert it into a vector embedding. And how do I convert it? I use this particular vector embedding, which vector provider, which I have loaded. So if I go to my vector provider, I can see that there is a static ID. So I'll use that, I'll copy that, and I'll paste it here. Now using this, I'll generate the vector embedding, and that vector embedding I'm updating in my this particular column, chunk underscore V column in my database, this particular column. This will take some time because I have 5,000 records. So let this execute. In the meanwhile, let us create a vector search configuration. So for that, what we have to do, I'll go back to my application, which is support ticket resolution. I'll go to shared components. And here I have something called a search configuration. So to create a search configuration, all I need is a table with a vector data type. So I'll just say support tickets resolution vector search config, a big name. And then the search type is Oracle vector search. I'll say next. And then I'll choose the vector provider as DB1X model, which I've created earlier, right? And then I'll choose the table on where my vector column is present. So I can click here and it will list all the tables where a vector data type column is present. Okay. Now I'll use this. So these are all the tables where I have a vector data type. So I'll use this support tickets resolution and I'll say next. Now, if you see here, it has identified a vector column and it has taken that into this particular vector column. So my primary key is ID. I'll use my title as chunk underscore C. That's where my character chunks are there. I don't need a description for now. I'll just create a search configuration. Okay, so this, as you can see here, this has created a vector search configuration now. Okay, so it has created on this particular table. It has used the provided as DBONX model. It has used the column chunk V for vector chunks. And then this is the search type. Search type, you can decide whether you want an exact search type, the exact answer for your question, or an approximate. And then if you remember, distance will be calculated using algorithms. So as I mentioned, these are the different algorithms which we support as on day, which is cosine. You can calculate the vector distance using a cosine algorithm or a dot, Euclidean square, Hamming, and Manhattan. For now, we'll go with cosine. And these are the columns which we have selected, ID and then title. Title is a column which we'll be using inside our apex underscore AI dot search PL SQL block, which we'll be using inside our RAG. So I'll be showing that part once the vector embeddings are generated. Okay, so let us see if the test, okay, it's still updating it. Okay, so that's one thing. And then if you remember, I have told the maximum vector distance is a column which you can define. You can define whether what should be the maximum distance till which it can do a vector search, and then the maximum number of rows it can return. Now, for my case, I'll just set 10 for now, and then say apply changes. Okay. Now my vector search configuration is ready. Now, if I want to create a search page, what do? I'll just go back to my application. The search page which you have seen in the movies thing, right? So you can come here, just say search page. And you can see all the vector search configurations which are created. You can select that, give a name to it. I'll just say vector search page. I'll just say create page, and this will create a vector search page. Okay, I'll run this and it will create a search page for me, which I named it as vector search page, where I can enter whatever I want to. Okay, let's ask the same kind of question. Bug application crash. Okay, so it has gone to the database and this is what we have seen, right? So it is getting all the data. This is coming from your chunk C. Okay, because we have not generated the vectors yet. So let's go back. Let's use that. We have created it on this page, right? So let's go back here. So why is it returning this? Because we are using title. So if you remember in my search configuration here, I have asked it to return title, and title contains what? My chunk underscore C. Now, rather than chunk underscore C, if I just say title, or let us say I want to use the description of my issue. I'll say apply change. And now when I refresh it and just say bug application crash, it will show me all the titles. Okay. Now let's concentrate on the how to use vector with RAG. Okay. So for that, what we'll do, we'll add to this. So let's go back to our AI configuration. I'll go to AI configuration, and here I'll create one more. I'll just say support tickets resolutions RAG with vector. Okay. And then I need to provide a welcome system prompt. I'll choose my generative AI service which I have configured, and then I'll give this guardrail saying that you have to use this. Okay. And then I'll give a welcome message and I'll create it. Now I have to create a RAG source, right? Create RAG source. I'll give support tickets resolution RAG with vector. So this is where, if you remember earlier, we have given select star from that particular table. Now, rather than that, what we'll do, we'll call that particular RAG. We'll call that particular vector search configuration, which we have created. So for that, what do we need? We need the search configuration static ID. So I'll go to my search configuration. I'll go here and I'll copy this search configuration ID. Okay, so let me get the block first. So this is my RAG source. So if you see here, the inside my RAG, I'm calling a vector search. So I'm using this package, PL/SQL package, apex underscore search dot search, and then I'm providing the static ID of my vector search configuration. And then I have to pass my question, right, to do a vector search. So that's where I'm passing this apex $AI last user prompt as a, this is a bind variable. So whatever is I'm trying to pass via my chatbot, it will be taking that and it will be using that and converting it, and that it is taking into the, and that it is using the title, right? So for that, let me make the change to this title because I have stored the entire characters in chunk underscore C. So I'll use that to respond back. And now let me copy this search configuration. I'll go back to my RAG source and here I'll give the static ID of my vector search configuration. Let's validate this and let us limit this tokens as well to 10,000 for now and say create. Okay. And the last one is 12393, right? We have the vector search configuration ready. So now we have the RAG with vector ready. Now let's go back to our page where we have that ask me button, right? So this is my ask me button where I am calling my AI configuration, which I have created earlier, right? Support tickets resolution vector. Now here, I'll just let me reuse the same thing. I'll just create a duplicate of it. I'll just say show RAG with vector. Okay. And here I'll change it to the AI configuration, which I have created now, right? So we have created the AI configuration where we are calling the vector search from within the RAG, right? So this is the one. So this is the one where we are creating, where we are calling the vector search from within RAG. Okay, so I have selected that and I'll comment this out for now so that it will use only this. I'll run my application. Okay, I just say, let's give the question, bugs causing application crash. Okay, did it complete? Oh yeah, it did complete the updation. So let us see. Okay, Now it has answered saying that based on the support ticket provided, the crashes are attributed to null pointer exceptions, memory leak in the background, so and so. Okay. Now let us say you have another follow-up question on the same thing. Something like, has anyone else reported crashes after uploading large files? Okay, then it will say yes, and it will give what is the status of that and who are the assignees to whom it is assigned. So on, you can ask any kind of questions. Now let us say I'm unable to log in after resetting my password. So this would be the usual tickets, kind of tickets which customers will raise, right? So rather than you going ahead and trying to see what could be the reason, you can see what could be the reason or the fix which previous engineers have given, and you can provide that to the customer to check. If that's not working, probably that's when you can get into a call with the customer and see. Okay, so this need not be only limited to this. So this is what I have inside my data which I'm using. For example, I have something else like some any complaints about delayed shipments. So these are basically, this is the base answering all these questions based on the data present in my database, which is in this particular table. Okay, so yeah, before that, let us see how many tokens it has consumed. We have run multiple times. Okay, so earlier for the same question with RAG, it took 12,393 tokens. With vector search, RAG with vector search, it used only 1,598 tokens, and the answer were precise, right? So that's where we use RAG with vector, where the number of tokens consumed would be less, as well as the answer would be more precise. Okay. So yeah, so if you see here, majority of your questions are being answered in kind of one to 2,000, 2 to 3,000 kind of tokens only. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much on the demo. I hope majority of the questions are answered in the chat by my colleagues. Let me go back to the presentation. For that, I'll stop sharing my screen. Let me bring this here. Share my other screen. And yeah, so that's on the demo. And to try vector search with the Apex, you can try these two live labs where we have explained step by step on how you can implement or how you can create an Apex application, how you can create a RAG, how you can create a vector, how you can use vector with RAG. Okay, so these are the two applications which you can refer to. And then for any Apex with AI collaterals, you can visit these links uh, where you can see completely as to how to build an AI-powered enterprise apps using Apex, how to use natural language with your Apex assistant. So these are all the demos which are available. And then for Apex and AI blocks, you can refer to this. If you can, blocks.oracle.com/Apex would be a single place where you will be getting all blocks with respect to Apex. So in our upcoming sessions, we have one on generative AI agents. So whatever I have shown now is on a table data, right? So what if you have a document, support document of 40 pages, 50 pages, and you want to ask question on top of that? So that we'll be covering in our upcoming session. Similarly, you want to do an image search, vector search using an image. You upload an image and you want to see the relevant images, or you upload an image and you want to see what could be, or you type your text and it has to fetch a relevant image. So we'll be covering all these kind of things in our upcoming sessions. And these are all the blocks. You can find all our blocks with Apex and AI at blocks.oracle.com/Apex. And then the Apex training and certification, we are running a free certification, which will be ending on 31st this month. So try to hurry, register and book a slot and try to be Apex Cloud Developer Professional certified. You can scan this to register for the course. If not, we'll anyways be sharing the deck. And these are the training and certification paths we have. One is the foundations, which is kind of a 3 hours learning. If you are not familiar with Apex, you can start with that, where you can understand, you will get a knowledge as to what Apex is. Then you can start with developer professional, which is kind of a 25 to 30 hours kind of learning path, where we have explained everything with respect to Apex and AI. Yeah, so these are the two learning paths. One is Apex Developer Professional, and then we have something called as Empowering Low-Code Apps with AI, where the AI part is also added with the Apex. And once you are certified, try to, this is kind of a badge which you will be getting, try to post it on LinkedIn. You can tag us using any of these tags so that the community will know that you're certified, and we'll get to know that you have certified, and we can establish a networking. To get certified on Oracle APEX Developer Professional, again, there are 5 steps. One, you will register for the learning path for free. Complete the first course, which is your professional, with where there will be a hands-on lab after each and every module. And then you can start with the second course, which is AI powered. Then you can prepare for the certification, where you can take up a practice test and then get certified. And these are a couple of video links which you can refer to for the same demos which I have mentioned earlier. And to learn more, you can reach out. You can reach out to us on apex.oracle.com. That's a single stop where you can find everything with respect to Apex. And for blogs, you can reach out on blogs.oracle.com/apex. And for Apex on Oracle Cloud, you can go on to these links. And these are a couple of QR codes which is already shown. Now let's quickly jump and see if there is anything on the Q&A still left. Okay. Okay, looks like majority of the questions are answered. So let me quickly show you one more thing. Hope I have some time. So whatever I have shown now with respect to vector search is just a sample. And to learn more, you can also go to Gallery, where we have a sample application on how to implement vector search with Apex. You can install this particular application where it can show you the recommendations. Let us say you're searching for a particular movie. You want it to show the recommendations for you. All those kind of things are made available in this particular Gallery application, which you can use. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much from my side. Any other questions?
So Santosh, I see we still got a time, 10 more minutes. So in meantime, you can just do ice-breaking questions, like let attendees know about all the different, if they're familiar with different database or some Oracle keywords, or we can just run a normal question thing if they are aware about. We can just do in meantime.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if there are no questions, I can ask questions. So whoever knows answer can just type it in the chat or the Q&A. So what's the data type which is introduced as part of Oracle database for storing the vector embeddings, and with which Oracle database version is it made available? Okay, I see that Rupesh has already provided that as answer to one of the question. Okay, so the database is 23A, correct? And what's the data type of the column? Perfect. Okay, and what are the vector providers which Oracle Apex supports as on date? Mm-hmm. Cohere, yes, that's part of OCI generative AI. So Cohere, OCI Gen AI, OpenAI, those all come under generative AI. And Farhan is correct, ONX, and there is one more, right? The next one is custom PL SQL. Okay. Now, once I have a vector data type column and I have a vector provider, I have generated vector embeddings. Now, to generate vector embeddings, what's the PL SQL API or PL SQL package which Apex provides? Anyone else? Yeah, a bit close. It is apex underscore AI dot get vector embeddings, which is used to generate vector embeddings based on your character chunk. Okay. Now, when do you use RAG and when do you use RAG with vector? What would be the use case for RAG and what would be the use case for RAG with vector? I guess it's difficult to answer there because you have to type an entire thing. So let me answer that. So RAG is something which we will be using if your data is kind of less than 5K type, if your data is structured basically, and if your data volume is kind of 5,000 records or less than that, you can go with a normal RAG. Again, if you want to save on tokens, even there you can go with vector. Vectors with RAG is ideally used for unstructured data and not for any of your analytic questions like show me the top 5 schools which have attendance rate greater than 50 kind of thing. Okay. So if there are any other questions which you want to ask, that's where you can, if your data is unstructured basically, or if your data volume is huge, more than 5K kind of thing, that's where you can go with RAG with vector. Okay. Can someone tell me what exactly is RAG? What's the abbreviation for RAG? Perfect. Now, where do I create the vector search configuration in Apex? That's correct. Under shared components, in shared components under search config, you will be creating a vector search config, right? And what is a search page used for? Search page, as the name says, it is used for searching. So if you want to search for something, you can use with vector search configuration. If you use vector search configuration which you have created or search configuration which you have created, and if you want to search based on that, you can create a search page and use that. Okay. So I have 5 minutes. Let me see. I've installed this app from the gallery. So okay, so this is an application which I was talking about, which is there in the gallery. I have installed it from here. So once done, you will get something like this, where you can go to a movie database or a custom data. Let us say you want to go with movie data. I just have to prepare data where I just say Hollywood movies. I say generate data. It will use AI to generate data for me for Hollywood movies. and it will load that data into the application, and it will generate vector embeddings for that particular data. So just wait for a couple of seconds and it will generate the data and the vector embeddings for that. Okay, it has generated the data. I'll upload it, and now I'm generating the vector embeddings for that. Okay, now let's go with this. Okay, so as you can see here, there's a basic vector search where I can search for a movie. Let us say Star Wars. It will get me all the records wherever I have Star Wars. Okay, and then movie recommendations. Now let us say I want to see Star Wars. So it will show me all the recommendations for that. Okay, similarly, let us say if Avatar is there. Okay, so Avatar is there. So when you select that, it will show all other recommendation movies. So this is again done using vector with Apex. So you can go through this particular application where they have explained on how you can build this entire application. And then we have something called as mixed languages. Again, this is based on the language. And if you want to try with custom data, you can just click on this and drag and drop your data, using which it will create. Let us say you have a CSV file with 10 columns, you load it as I have mentioned here. You can use with a file with 10 columns, because the code written in the backend will concatenate all these 10 columns to create a character chunk and then generate a vector embedding on top of that. Okay. So if you want to try vector with your data, try to load that using a CSV or an XLS, which will be loaded. A vector embedding will be generated, and then a sample vector search can be generated from that. Okay, so before loading this application, you have to set up, once you install it, you will be asked to select one of the AI providers, because you need the AI service to answer your questions, right? The ONX model and all are only used for breaking your data here into generating vector embeddings out of your data, right? So for answering your questions, we are using RAG, right? So that's where you would need to select the AI provider, which can be either OCI, GenAI, or OpenAI for this particular application. Whereas if you are using Apex directly, there you can even use Cohere. And yeah, that's pretty much from my side. I'll stop presenting.